This Raw review is dedicated to the life of Lanny Poffo. May he rest in peace. What is going on out there, world? It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watch Along Wrestling. Hopefully everyone is doing well and staying safe. It is great to see each and every one of you once again. And in this video, I'm going to break down all things WWE Monday Night Raw, which emanated live last night in Orlando, Florida. And honestly, I thought this show was great. A really good hype piece for the Elimination Chamber. That card is coming together quite nicely. Just up and down. Fun show. The women really carried this show of Raw. I thought they got a ton of time on the show, and everybody really looked great. You got to see a couple of great singles matches from the Street Profits. I think both of those guys have bright futures in singles competition should WWE decide to go that way, though I love the team. And so much more. So let's break it down. Let's get right into it. Show started off with Edge and Beth Phoenix, and I'll be honest, I'm really happy that they're going back to this, and they're putting a bow on the Edge and Judgment Day feud. One of the things, I love Ria Ripley, and I'm excited that she's getting this opportunity to challenge Charlotte Flair at Wrestlemania, especially because I do like the story that they're bringing together Charlotte and Rhea. I know some people really wanted to see Rhea and Bianca, and I think at some point we'll get there, but I do like the story they're telling of Rhea having that one bugaboo, so to speak, of Charlotte Flair, the one person who's kind of always gotten the upper hand from her, to now be able to go ahead and come back and get that match with her in a stadium that they should have gotten, obviously couldn't get back at WrestleMania 36 due to COVID. So I like that story. That being said, I really thought that WrestleMania was going to be the blow-off for the Edge and Judgment Day feud. I thought that. I was there at Extreme Rules. I loved that match between Edge and Finn Balor, and really loved the angle they shot at the end with Edge having to say I quit for the honor of Beth Phoenix. So I thought that made the most sense for WrestleMania. Obviously, with Rhea involved in the storyline, that's not where they're going to go. And so instead, they did make the match official. It's going to be Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor taking on Edge and Beth Phoenix at No Way Out at Elimination Chamber. That'll be a good one. I had a flub just thinking of my main man, Damian Priest, who yesterday, when he was cutting a promo, accidentally almost said that he'd be going to Money in the Bank. So it was one of these things, everyone online was having fun at Damian Priest's expense. At the end of the day, with everything that's going on in the world, I think the Damian Priest making an error is one of the smaller issues that we all can have with someone. So, but in any event, I'm excited for this match. I think it's going to be great. I think Edge came out totally fired up, ran into the crowd, leaped into like the front row almost. Crowd embraced him. He walked around the entire front row, made sure to stop, take photos with people, was able to sign a couple of autographs, gave people a couple of different hugs, and it was so cool to see, because you think about the idea that, like, Edge obviously grew up a fan. He knows people are paying an arm and a leg for tickets. I think when I went to Raw a couple weeks ago, it was $500 a ticket. That was for the Raw 30th anniversary if you sat in the front row. And obviously, that's probably a little more because you are bringing home your seat. But still, you're paying a lot of money if you're sitting front row for WWE. So for Edge to go out of his way to do something that's relatively small for him, but at the end of the day, you don't see very many people do it. And to go ahead and go out of his way to do it, the crowd was fired up. And I thought that was really a nice thing to do. And it gives those people a little something extra that they probably will remember for the rest of their lives. Not only did they get to go to Raw, not only did they get to sit front row, but here comes Edge. He gives them a hug. He gets to pose for a photo with them. Really cool stuff. And it's just something that it reminds you what a good dude Edge is. So I really liked that. I thought the promo was great. Edge mentioned that at this point he's the king of returns. Because he's returned so many times. Made a Jamiroquai reference, which I immediately got and popped, but very few people in the crowd did. So he then made a mention about telling kids to Google it, which made me feel old, but I appreciated it nonetheless. So it will be a fun match at Elimination Chamber, and I like that they're able to do a couple of matches here. You'll see a theme throughout the night. They're doing a few matches here at Elimination Chamber that I think could have been WrestleMania worthy. But now instead, this really propels and brings up the Elimination Chamber to almost become a top-flight WWE pay-per-view, and I'm really into it. I think it's going to be a great show, and I think it's benefited from having so many different storylines kind of going on at the same time. This led to Damian Priest taking on Angelo Dawkins. I'll be honest, I wanted Angelo Dawkins to win this match. I like Montez Ford, but I like Angelo Dawkins as much, and I think that Angelo Dawkins usually gets the short end of the stick, but he's really improved. He's gotten so much better. He started in NXT many years ago, and now to have this opportunity to be in a singles match, I thought would have been nice to have both members of the Street Profits in the Elimination Chamber. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Damian Priest did get the win, but a solid match. And I like Priest as well, and it makes sense for him to get this opportunity here. I feel like he's almost been the forgotten man in the Judgment Day. Rhea, obviously, has been the star of that group, winning the Royal Rumble, going on to face Charlotte at WrestleMania. Finn Balor has sort of been positioned as the leader of the group if Ria Ripley isn't, so. And then obviously Dominic, I think, has been really the focal point of the group because of how well he's adapted to being a heel, the whole jailbird thing and everything to that extent. So good to see Priest get this opportunity here. But again, I thought it would have been interesting to see Angelo Dawkins get that opportunity to really have a chance to shine. I thought that would have been fun to see the Street Profits have a week to build both of them being in the chamber. We'll get to the other match. Montez Ford took on Elias a little later in the show, so we'll get to that when we get to that portion of things. Next up on the show, you had Dexter Loomis taking on Baron Corbin. They did a deal where it looks like Nikki Cross is stalking Dexter Loomis in the back, so that'll be interesting to follow. I think both of those characters kind of being intertwined with one another would be really interesting, especially there's a report that Indy Hartwell worked the main event tapings before Raw, so if it's a situation where maybe Indy Hartwell is brought up and they continue their romance from NXT, and then maybe you have Nikki Cross getting a little jealous of whatever that is, I think that would be a fun deal. So interesting to see and kind of monitor that piece. Dexter Loomis beat Baron Corbin really fast. This was an okay match, but really the story here is that JBL is starting to have enough of Baron Corbin. It hasn't worked. I thought it was going to work. I like Baron Corbin. A lot of people know that I'm a fan of Baron Corbin, but it just wasn't something that has not clicked. I don't know why. But they ended up blowing that up, and at the end of the match, they had a backstage skit where JBL just told Baron Corbin basically he has go-away heat, channel-changing heat, and left him. At least it would appear he left him. He said he was finished with him. He was ruining his Hall of Fame reputation, and I'm interested to see where they go with Corbin from here. They always seem to have something with Corbin. You think about Baron Corbin's only been up really since, well, he's actually been up since WrestleMania 32, so about 7 years now at this stage, but he's had so many different incarnations, whether it be general manager, constable, King Baron Corbin, the Lone Wolf, so many different characters, Bum Baron Corbin, Happy Baron Corbin. They always find something for Baron Corbin. So I'm actually wondering if they end up doing a deal where Baron Corbin fights JBL at WrestleMania. They have a match. Maybe JBL comes out of retirement for it. I think that's where they're going to go. But it'll be interesting to kind of monitor and see where they're going with that situation. A lot of people hoping they bring back bum-ass Corbin. I like the character a lot, but at the same time, I know that Baron Corbin really believed in that character and really went above and beyond and lived his personal life, unshaved and doing all that, and I'm sure that wasn't easy. So interesting to see kind of where that goes from here. Also, one of the things that I love WWE now, because whenever you see a backstage segment, you immediately got to have your eyes, kind of on a swivel. In the back, they showed MVP talking with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, and that would be seen and kind of come into play a little later on. Brock Lesnar was on the show. Brock is still Cowboy Brock Lesnar. He's happy as can be, waving, smiling, going at the fans. Honestly, really fun segment here where he kept talking about Bobby Lashley and had laid out a challenge with a multi-million-dollar contract for a match between the two at Elimination Chamber. Wasn't made official yet, but next week they will go ahead and probably make that official. A contract signing set for Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. So Barclays Center will have Brock Lesnar. Maybe also have yours truly in the crowd. We'll see how things go, but that'll be fun to kind of monitor that situation between the two of them. Looks like they're going to do that match at Elimination Chamber. I think that's absolutely the right call. Those guys have already wrestled twice. Honestly, I haven't seen either. Both of their matches have been okay, but both of these matches have also been presented as dream matches, and for a lot of people were dream matches. They just haven't lived up to that hype. So I'm fine and actually pretty happy to blow this off here at Elimination Chamber, get it out of the way, and then have both guys move on to something else at WrestleMania. So that remains to be seen next week with the contract signing. Next up, you had a women's Fatal 4-Way match. This was Michin taking on Piper Niven, taking on Candice LeRae, taking on the returning Carmella. They got about 10 minutes, and these women were great. I mean, really, really good stuff last night between all four of them. You think about how deep the WWE roster is. You have the four of them. This isn't even including Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. This isn't including Bayley, Damage Control, Becky Lynch, all of the women who all have already advanced into the Elimination Chamber. So such a deep women's roster right now. I think they're really clicking on all cylinders, and this match was awesome. All four of them really went hard in this match. I think any of them could have won. At the end of the day, they went with Carmella. I personally was rooting for Piper Niven, but I'm not disappointed Carmella won. I think if anything, Carmella is really underrated, works very hard, and it's great to see her back. Obviously, she's had a very public, long battle to return to WWE, and I'm happy for her, and glad she's able to get this chance. So now the Elimination Chamber for the women is set. It'll be Natalya versus Liv Morgan versus Asuka versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Carmella, and honestly, I think the match, versus Nikki Cross as well. Those are your 6 women for the Elimination Chamber. That should be awesome. That match, I hope, does close the show. I think it has the most at stake there, with the winner going against Bianca. And the women last night, I mean, you had about 4 or 5 different segments with the women of Raw, and I thought they were all really well done. So great stuff there. Moving right along, you then had, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you had Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander taking on the Alpha Academy. Short match, but when Cedric Alexander and Chad Gable were in the ring together, it was magic. I hope we get a lot more out of these two. And Shelton and Cedric, they come down with MVP and get the big win over the Alpha Academy. Hate to see Alpha Academy lose again, but it is nice to see that MVP is continuing to make moves, and it seems like is reuniting or perhaps reinvigorating the Hurt Business. That, I think, is something to keep an eye on as you get closer to Lashley and Lesnar at Elimination Chamber. Perhaps Lashley embraces this new Hurt Business. I hope he does. I do think that Lashley with the Hurt Business was great. Lashley with MVP is great. I think he always really does a good job. I don't think he's a horrible promo, but I think he does a great job when he does have a mouthpiece. And I thought that I was really happy to see Cedric and Shelton finally getting that rub again, and a little bit of a renewed push. I think they're both great, and love to see that. From here, we did get the aforementioned Montez Ford. Oh, I apologize. Actually, it was Asuka against Chelsea Green. Asuka defeated Chelsea Green relatively quickly. I will say that one of the great things of the night is that you had Chelsea Green continuing her Karen character, asking for a match, saying her family was going to be in the crowd, which I got a kick out of, knowing they were in Orlando, knowing that she's married to Matt Cardona, who, you know, will likely, I had made a joke on Twitter, was likely at the Disney parks, waiting to know whether or not she was going to get a match on the show. This was short and sweet. Asuka did get the win, but I'm happy to see at least that one of the people they brought back here in Chelsea Green seems to be getting a chance to really show her character and what she can do, because I do think she has a lot to offer. I think she's actually solid in the ring, and I'm excited to see where they go with this character. Someone like Emma, for example, she was brought back, she was given a match, and then really hasn't been seen. So at the end of the day, nobody can really succeed on a comeback unless they're given an opportunity to really develop. And so I'm glad that they seem to be invested in Chelsea Green doing just that. Next up, it was probably the segment of the entire show here. Cody Rhodes came out, and this will be the segment that when you turn back and look at the start of the build for WrestleMania, this is the one you remember. Cody Rhodes comes out and starts talking about how Roman Reigns might be his current opponent for WrestleMania, but that Sami Zayn might be the guy to take over. And at first I was like, he's acknowledging Sami. This is interesting. I'm a big Cody guy. I've always been a big fan of Cody Rhodes. Everyone knows that. I was actually quite annoyed when I'd go to an AEW show and people were booing Cody. It made absolutely no sense to me. So at the end of the day, I have been seeing a lot of people online saying, oh, people are going to turn on Cody, people are going to give him the Batista treatment, and with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. And I really haven't gotten it. I know Sami's great, and I'm a big Sami Zayn guy, and I'd love to see Sami in the main event somehow of WrestleMania, but I also am invested in Cody having this opportunity. And last night, I think Cody showed how great he was. He came out, had this promo, was in really good spirits, and was interrupted by Paul Heyman. I actually thought Roman was going to come out at one point. I thought if he did, the crowd would have just absolutely lost their mind. But WWE is far too smart for that. I mean, even though they almost had a sellout last night, they know that if they promote Roman, they'd have even more people in the building if they could fit him in there. So Cody cut this great promo. Paul Heyman comes out. They have this really nice emotional deal where Cody starts to talk about how in 2000 Dusty Rhodes actually was broke and the family was really struggling, and they did a deal where Paul Heyman gave Dusty an opportunity with the old ECW when Dusty needed it the most. And so Cody's going on talking about this. As he's talking about it, Paul is just, he gets legit, it looks legit emotional. It looked like this was not a situation where they even discussed what they were going to say and they just called it on the fly. Paul's choked up, really emotional stuff. And then Paul turns immediately on Cody and basically says, hey, we're in Florida. The Performance Center is right down the road. And when the Performance Center was built, it was built for Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty was one of the main pieces. And it was Dusty who looked over and really built up Roman Reigns. He was one of the guys that was one of Dusty's guys, along with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and a bunch of other people. And he said, the one guy that Dusty never built up was Cody Rhodes. And he said, Cody is my favorite son, but Roman Reigns is the son I never had. He said Dusty had said that. And so really kind of deep personal stuff. And then Cody kind of then sent it even further by saying, you're going to make this personal, but I promise you, I'm not going to take it out on you. I'm going to take it out on Roman Reigns. I'm going to take his title at Wrestlemania. And it was like, let's go. Like, that is what you want to see on the start of the build for Wrestlemania. And we still got like 6 more weeks of those two. Such good stuff. And honestly, if you're going to go out of your way to see one thing on the show, you see a lot of this because it's a good show. But if you're going to go out of your way to see one thing on the show, I think that's the promo you go out of your way to see. It was so well done. Closing out the show now with the final men's Elimination Chamber qualifier, as they kind of put a bow on that one. Montez Ford did defeat Elias in over 10 minutes. I like Elias. I think Elias is good in the ring, but it does feel like I'm not sure they know what to do with his character at this stage. They don't even allow him to come out. He had an entrance in the commercial break. Could you imagine Elias back in 2018 having his entrance throughout the commercial break? The character is built on that entrance. The character is built on the Elias concert, and they're not really doing that with him, so I'm not too sure what they're thinking. But Montez does get a big win. Montez is incredible in the ring. I hope they don't split the Street Profits. I think both of them are really good together. I hope they kind of go the route of the New Day. Someone on Twitter had mentioned that to me, and I think it's a great idea. Let those guys go for singles titles, but you don't have to break them up, kind of how the New Day did with Kofi going for the title and then eventually Big E getting the title run as well, but still remaining the New Day. I think that's the way to go with the Street Profits, and I'm interested to see where they go with this. I think, honestly, you can go a number of different ways with the U.S. title here at Elimination Chamber. I think you can go with Austin Theory. I think he's had a really good run with the belt, or you can kind of give someone else an opportunity here. I think Damian Priest, Montez Ford, Bronson Reed, Johnny Gargano, any of those 4 guys I think could get the title here and get a real big spotlight and renewed push here as they move forward. You could also, I don't think you're going to go with Rollins. I think Rollins is going to be moving on to something else for WrestleMania. I think it's obvious they're building something with him and Logan Paul. So I think that'll be a fun match for him. But interesting to be seen which way they do go. This match should be awesome, though, at Elimination Chamber. And I think it is going to be kind of a single showcase for Montez Ford. I think it's been on people's minds for a long period of time that he is going to be a breakout star. But I hope that Angelo Dawkins isn't lost to the shuffle, because I also think he's very, very good. And both Street Profits have a lot to offer. So interesting to see. Really good match, though, from Elias and Montez Ford. And Montez Ford now officially in the men's Elimination Chamber. Next week on Raw, by the way, there is the Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar contract signing. There's also going to be a Miz TV with Seth Rollins, and then it's going to be Asuka teaming with Nikki Cross and Carmella to take on Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, and Natalya as they get ready for the Elimination Chamber. Remains to be seen if I do end up going to that show. I'd like to. I think it'll be fun, but it'd be interesting to see kind of which way they go from there. Main event time, steel cage match, Becky Lynch versus Bayley. I was concerned that they were not going to deliver on this match again, and that instead I thought that what they'd do is they'd go through a series of times where they were about to do the match, find a way to do the match, and then eventually that match gets all the way postponed several times until we finally got it at WrestleMania. Instead, they had a great match, 15 minutes between Bayley and Becky Lynch. Story of the match was that Becky, damage control, continued to try to get into the cage and would eventually be halted by a returning Lita. the Hall of Famer returned to help Becky Lynch. So you're continuing this story of everyone who Becky's kind of feuded with during her heel run, had nothing but, at the end of the day, respect for Becky, and is now coming to Becky's aid. So I liked this. I really think this was probably planned for Raw 30. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You had Lita come out as a surprise, is there, the legend helping the newer kind of passing of the torch with Becky Lynch. I don't anticipate that Lita will be involved moving forward, unfortunately, but a lot of people have already started to fantasy book different things for her for WrestleMania, and I think her getting a nice big match at WrestleMania would actually be great. She hasn't really had a real great, I'm not sure she's ever had a match at WrestleMania. Huh. That's possible. She's never really had a match at WrestleMania. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one. So this would be a lot of fun to have Lita get that opportunity to have a match at WrestleMania and to be able to get a nice send-off. Lita looked great in coming back. And yeah, I think that'd be really cool, whether it be Lita and Bayley or maybe Lita, Becky, and someone else against Damage Control. Who knows? But I think that would be interesting. And I think a lot of people thought it would be Bayley and Becky paired up at WrestleMania. Seems like maybe now that's already blown off and finished with. So where they go from there with Becky and Bayley coming out of this is interesting. But I also I love the idea of now. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any less than 6 women's matches over WrestleMania, the 2 shows, and that's how it should be. I mean, the roster is just so deep, such a talented roster at this point, and they were the stars of the show yesterday. I thought that they really carried Raw in many aspects. So really great to see Lita, great to see a good women's match, and hey, I really enjoyed Raw yesterday. I don't always do a Raw report. If you liked this, let me know in the comment section. I'll try to do some more Raw and SmackDown reviews, but I had to get on with you guys here. Great way to start the day here on a Tuesday, and let you guys know that I loved Raw. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll catch y'all in the next video.